Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to have the Midas touch? They cast a vision, they set goals, and they always seem to experience success.
Or why do some people cast a vision, set goals, yet truly never start? Today's topic: the biggest mistake every leader needs to avoid when setting their goals for 2023. Welcome back, Suzanne.
Thank you. Welcome to the Influencer Journey Show. As you know, my name is Suzanne Hart, and I'm sitting here with.
Taria Hodge.
So, this is a big question. How does the average entrepreneur like you and I start with limited time, zero marketing budget, and little or no online presence, get their authentic message into the marketplace and become a person of influence?
And what skills must you learn? And most importantly, who are you required to become to magnetically attract your divine client and build your loyal following? I think I got a little prematurely excited just now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh my gosh, it seems like forever since we've had the opportunity to sit down together and do our influencers journey show. But welcome back. So before we jump in, let's bring our super achievers up to date on what's been going on with all things Suzanne.
Well, I've been vacationing, and then I went off to the beautiful Dubai.
Mm.
Had a fantastic time with the Game Changer program. None other than Miss Lethea Owens and her team. So I got to do the mindset piece at her beautiful table, which was so much fun. Right now, I'm back in Canada, and I'm sitting in the home of the beautiful Decker team.
Yeah.
So Ken and Yetta Decker, and we are hanging out, and we are uh, talking through action plans and accountability.
Mm.
So that's what I'm here doing because, it's January. We're hitting the ground running, girl.
Yes, that's right. Wow. Well, I am super excited. Glad to have you back and just can't wait to unpack today's conversation. So I know it's going to be a great one. I'm looking forward to it. So, you were going to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, girl.
So one of the things that I'll just start it off and kick it off. One of the things that I got excited about about this conversation is taking a look at goals and what it truly takes to achieve your goals. So one of the things that I became present to, I was that person who would set the same goals year after year after year and not achieve the goals. And then that became like a very depressing thing for me. Like, why is it that everyone around me seems like they could achieve their goals, but I'm still, stuck on achieving the goals? And so a couple of things used to happen in that arena for me. So one of the things that I realized that I used to do was secretly abandon my goals. So I want to know how many super achievers out there. You could just drop a comment if you're brave enough in the comment section to let us know that you've set goals and you took a look at your goals and your goals kind of made you like a little scared and seem overwhelming, and then you abandon your goals, or worse yet, you turn around and you adjust them to something a little bit more comfortable.
Oh, that
And
was good.
yeah, so I'm so excited to unpack this conversation because this is part of the work that I've been doing with you.
Yeah. And that's such a great place to start this conversation. I know for myself, Taria, I was the goal setter that had lots of goals. However, in my mind, I could walk, chew gum, spin plates, juggle balls, be super mom, have a job, do this, do that, do the other. And as you would not achieve the goals that were important to me and didn't understand why.
Mhm.
Because in my mind, I was having success in like the areas in my workplace and all these different places. But when it came to what I truly wanted, I wasn't having success. And there was one key thing that we're going to talk about that I didn't do that made all the difference in the world.
Mhm.
And of course, when it comes to my own goals, like you, one, they scared me. And I guess I would, if now that you said it, I secretly abandoned them. However, that's not how I looked at it.
Mm.
Working hard, girl. Hard. and and nothing was happening.
Yeah, it's that thing when we talk about secretly abandoning the goal. Is like you know when you've abandoned the goal in your mind, and you're just going through the motions, or you're just doing all the busy work, but you really and truly you don't believe that you can hit the goal. So it's like when you lose that belief, that's where the abandonment comes in. So it's
And,
just like
and I think for a lot of people, they don't actually even recognize that they don't believe, that they've lost belief. They're just busy
mm-hmm,
in the doing,
right.
working hard, in the doing more, in the pushing, in the forcing. And so we're going to talk about this one thing that when you do it, one, I think it scares you just to get ready. And two, I think it scares you. So get ready.
So what we're taking away here is that you're going to be scared. It scares you. That's the big takeaway. All right.
All right. So welcome. So as you join us, as you jump on, please let us know who you are and where in the world you are hailing from. Let us know what you do while you're living and who you are called to serve. As you jump on and start to comment, please ask questions. Let us know what resonates with you. Light up the comment section.
Yeah. And then also take a minute to let us know who you serve in your business. So, this is one of the things that we absolutely love to do when we meet in our time together on the Influencers Journey Show. We like to take a look and see who our super achievers are. So, let us know who you serve in your business, how you serve in the business, and in your business, and make sure you take a minute to put that inside of the chat. Why do we ask you to do this? One of the things that we love is the virtual networking that happens each and every single time that we have the show, and the virtual networking that happens in our storytelling for super achievers community. So we won't know who you serve and how you serve unless you tell us. So make sure that you take a moment to do that. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do, this is going to be such a juicy conversation today. Make sure that you take a moment to share. So look below the video, hit the share button, share it out to your network, share it out to your community. If you have a community of super achievers as well who might benefit from the conversation, take a minute to do that, or tag someone who you feel will benefit from this conversation this morning.
All right. So are you ready?
I am.
Okay. So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome back to the Influencers Journey Show. The topic today is the basic mistakes every leader needs to avoid when setting goals for 2023. I am Suzanne Hart, and you know our girl, Hodge.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting conversation, and I want to just say that before we jump in and Tria starts asking some great questions, we had this conversation during our mastermind,
Mhm.
and it was really interesting to see because I posed a question, why don't have you ever set your goals and cast a vision and then consistently not achieve it? Almost everybody said yeah, and then the reasons why were interesting. I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't build an action plan. I got unfocused. I did all these things. However, this one thing no one said.
Mm.
So,
Ah.
do we tell them what it is?
Yeah, I think we should start it off and tell them. And I'm recalling something that just recently happened. So, like I said, I'm super excited to unpack it on the show. So, what is it? What is that one thing that we all must avoid when it comes to staying on track, with our goals and making sure that we achieve our goals?
Well, I used to think that goal setting, Sharia, and casting a vision was key, and it is, right? So I'd sit down and I'd put on music, and you know how I do what I do, and I go to that place, and open my mind, and I daydream, and then I come home and write my daydream. So house in the hills overlooking the ocean, traveling the world, training, and I'd get it all down and I get all excited. Then I'd sit down and, if you know me, 10 categories, 100 goals. I'd be writing my goals and I'd be ready. Then I'd build my quarterly action plan. So if you're tracking, these are the things that most of us do.
Mhm.
This was the thing I forgot to do until, I figured it out. I didn't decide.
Mm.
I didn't decide I was going to succeed. I didn't decide I was going to win. I didn't decide that this is what I'm going to do. And so decide really means to cut off every other option. So I picture it, Tria, as and you saw the slide when we were talking about it. All these doors, and the decision door is a red door, and I walk through the red door and I close off all other doors, all other options, all other things that people bring to me, all other distractions, and I'm laser focused on the decision I made, the thing I'm going to focus on for the quarter. However, when I was spinning plates, juggling balls, um, being all things to all people, what would happen, if you can picture it, is I'd go down the red door, then I'd run out the red door, and I go, ooh, I gotta go put out fire in the yellow door. So I go down the yellow door, then I come back and go, ooh, there's a great idea behind the green door. So I'd run down the corridor of the green door, and I was busy, but I was starting all these little fires everywhere versus starting the big bonfire call, focusing on my goals. And so the first thing is decision.
Oh, so Suzanne, I'm going to tell you why this is so good. True story. So, having a conversation with my fiance, we made a decision on something. And in having a conversation, challenge, of course, pops up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I had to catch myself on this because we decided on something. And as the challenge came up, immediately what came out of my mouth was a deviation from the plan, a deviation from
Rabbit hole moment.
a scary moment, right? Because the reason why I had to catch myself was, this is the decision that we made. Challenge comes up, and then in my mind, like, oh my gosh, that's too hard. How are we going to do this? Do we need to, change the plan? But here's the thing, no, because we haven't even started to implement the plan. So how are you gonna? You didn't give the plan a chance, okay? And
Yeah.
so it brought to mind how quickly we waver. So when you're talking about making a decision and cutting off all options, right, is to say, like, this is the thing that I've decided to do. This is what I'm going to do. And so all other options become null and void. And I'm going to stay focused, and I'm going to stay on track, and I'm going to work this. So how do you um, navigate through that? So one of the things that
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask is, first is thoughts in our mind. So what comes up for us, and then of course, you think it, then you speak it. So why is it that, what we speak and the language that we use, how does that impact, our ability, to create the results that we want to have?
It is that's such a great question. And the first thing I want to remind everybody is we create through language,
Hmm.
right? We communicate to ourselves and we communicate to the world through language. And I always remind myself that language paint pictures for me. For some people, language it shows up differently, but in my world, language paints pictures. So if I don't have a picture, or if I don't understand the behavior attached to a word I'm using, I
Hmm.
might use it, but not act in alignment with the true meaning of the word. Or I may have a different definition of the word. So for me, when I say I didn't decide or no one decided, because no one said, I'm going to cut off all distractions. I'm going to cut off everything that gets in the way of this. This is going to be my one focus.
Yeah.
That's a decision. You brought up something else, though. So as I unpack this, and you know, Tria, I spend time in the morning journaling, thinking I sometimes way too much. I love words. So as I unpack this, I actually realize that not only do I have to make a decision, because a decision is to cut off all other options.
Mm-hmm.
You just highlighted the next step. I was required to commit.
Yes.
And remember, I'm saying, and I'm highlighting language because we think and create in language. So I decide, cut off all options. But how many of you have made a decision and yet not committed?
Right.
So, and I remember when we talked through this the other night on the mastermind, people were like, "What's the difference between decision and commitment? Like, aren't they the same thing?"
No.
No. And so I said, "Well, decision is to cut off all other options, but I can cut off all other options and stand still, can I not?"
Yeah.
In front of the option.
Yep.
Commitment is the pursuit of a worthy objective until completed. And I like to say, not until scared, not until tired, not until challenged, not until you find something more exciting, until completed. So imagine if you related to your goals in 2023 as one, I'm going to decide this is the thing.
Yeah.
Two, I'm going to commit. So no matter what comes at me, I'm going to do the thing.
And the thing about it is, this is why goals are so important. So I remember on the mastermind, and I'm seeing the slide that you use to illustrate the point that you're making. And on the slide for commitment, you had two rings. And I was just like, wow, that is so powerful. So when I saw that, one of the things that I thought about was marriage. And marriage has a clear goal, right? It has a clear ending, or when it's completed. That's the word that I want to know, that I want to use. Like, a marriage, has been completed because it's until death do us part. So until one partner leaves, then that's the commitment. You are married. And I was just like, oh wow, this is so good, because it's about us getting really clear on what the goal or what the goals are. And so when you talk about commitment, are you committing? What are you truly committing to? Are and you're supposed to be anchoring, to the goal. So everything that you do and you work through it, you have like I said, the challenges come up, is that going to sway you, from the goal? Is it going to take you off the path of getting to the goal? And so that's the commitment. The commitment is to get to the end result that you desire. So I really thought that was so powerful and a great illustration of the word commitment. So when you take a look at commitment, is first understanding, clearly in the end, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to achieve? What's the goal? And then you don't deviate from that.
Mm-hmm. And this is the interesting thing about when we start really being intentional and paying attention to language. And so one of the things I said to the group is, I'm going to give you this list of words, and I want you to put them somewhere where you can see them, and we'll share the list of words possibly later on. So I want you to keep them here so that you can relate to the words in a very clear way. And you can relate to what it means when you said, I decide, and I'm pursuing these goals that will lead me to this vision I've casted. Like, what does that truly mean? And so part of it is that when we are not clear on what we say, we say anything.
Ooh, that's good.
And we don't actually pay attention to, when I speak it into existence or I speak it into the world, there's an expectation that my behavior lines up with that speaking if I want to be known in the world as a person of integrity or as a person who you can count on. And where the breakdown is for many of us until we start paying attention is we speak too soon and we say, oh yeah, I'll be there, I'll do this, I'll do that. Not really, and this is where you went, not really assessing
Mm-hmm.
what it means to you to honor the commitment.
Yes. Yes. And like I said, it was a big one because I had to catch myself. So as you know, the words actually came out of my mouth, I was just like, "Ooh, that's not what
Did I just say that?
that's not what we said." But luckily for me, I have a great person by my side that said, "No, that's not what we committed to."
That's not what we
That's
decided.
not what we committed to. That's not what we decided. And so we're going to stay focused. So that was my, that was my real life in your face moment with this
Mhm,
conversation. So for our super achievers out there, like this is definitely like work in progress. So how many times or how often, like you said, have you gone through life without not clearly making a decision, number one, because I know count many times where I just drifted because there was no decision made. You have lots of options and you just kind of play with options, but you never really decide on what it is you're going to do. And then when you take a look at it, you go nowhere very quickly because you haven't decided on the path that you want to go. And then I love it. The next step is to be committed.
mhm.
So I'm gonna ask this. So why do you think it is that we make this big mistake? Why do you think that is?
As I was unpacking this, Tria, and I'm going to go back to we create in language and we think through things in language. And when we start breaking down language, it's so powerful because it tells us so much information and things about ourselves. So as you said, I remember I said at the beginning of the show that you're gonna be a little scared.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my indication of commitment is I instantly, if I'm really up to something awesome, big, worthy of my life, the minute I commit, I get anxious.
Mm.
And it's like, right?
Yeah.
The minute I remember when I walked into my boss's job and told her that I was leaving in 6 months, and the minute I walked out the door, I thought I was going to be sick
Mm.
because it was a decision. And now I had to honor my commitment. And the thought of honoring my commitment made me, it made my
A
stomach,
bit nauseous.
made my stomach flip flop. And the reason it made my stomach flip flop was I was confronted
Mm.
by who I was required to be
Right.
and who I was not accustomed to being. I want you guys to get this.
Mm-hmm.
So, why we make the mistake and we set goals and we don't pursue and we don't decide is because at some point after we write them down and we do the thing, I think we unconsciously get confronted by who we're not.
Yeah. So that is so good. So that was also part of my recognizing, you know, in that whole conversation. It's wow, I reverted back to what I know,
Mm-hmm.
the being of who I am right now versus thinking about wow, what's really required of me to go forth. And so in that moment I was really confronted,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, of like, oh wow, these are the things that I've always said, I've always told myself around this particular area, and I've operated this way, before in the past up until this present moment. So now in this moment, I'm required to do something different. I'm required to unlearn, what I've learned before in order to stretch and grow into the other place. And it opened up such a beautiful conversation, because I was like, at that point, I was just like, oh, wow, this is
Mhm.
where I'm required to grow. And then, like you said, it's scary. Yeah, it is scary, because now I started to go into this place of thinking, oh my gosh, what, ooh, this is such a good conversation. I went into this place of, oh my gosh, what does that picture look like? How am I going to do this? Like a million questions came up for me in my mind.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I think the next thing, and I know you're going to talk about this because we talked about it in the mastermind. So I just love it when our mastermind conversations like just play out in real life. I had to get settled, right? And one of the things that I realized, oh, I started to ask myself is, why is this so scary? Number one. And then what is required, for me to handle the feelings that I have inside to get past that and work
Mhm.
through it. So speak a little bit more on that.
Well, it's funny because I was on the phone with Cindy, and I see Cindy on. So good morning, Cindy. And we were talking about um, the gap between where you are,
Mm-hmm.
where you're going, and what happens when you make the decision. So it's almost like when you make the decision, you get plunged into the gap of like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's this place. And we were talking about living in the delay. And I mean, in the delay of gratification, in the delay of understanding, in the delay of knowing, in the delay of becoming, if you will. And
Yeah.
so we were talking about living in the delay. So what happens is you had this moment of, oh, I'm at the edge of who I know myself to be,
Yeah.
and I have to jump into the unknown self, the delay, and allow the becoming to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And so for many of us, I'm like, no, let me go swim in the warm water that I know, because that cold water of the delay, I don't know if I'm going to survive. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how ugly it's going to be. I don't know how good or bad I'm going to look. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And that's the key. So, one of the things that we talked about was, how do you hold the delay? So,
Mm.
remember, I said, in my mind, power happens through language. We
Yeah.
create through language. So, one of the things that Cindy and I were talking, and thank you for just a great, juicy conversation, Cindy. I asked, how are you holding the delay? And of course, most of us hold the delay as frustration,
Yes.
as impatience, as I don't want to be here. Why is it not happening fast enough? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, what if you shifted how you relate to this thing called delayed gratification? And
Mm.
it's like, oh, okay. And so what was beautiful, we had started having the conversation about, if you look at the delay as a gift because it gives you the opportunity to become,
Yeah.
it occurs differently. So for me, I always say, okay, Suzanne, I've jumped into this place where I've met the edge of myself in this area. I don't know what I'm required to do. I don't know the how. I don't know the who. I don't know all these things. If I step into the delay and I give myself the opportunity to learn, grow, fail, pick up new information, all these things, I am going to activate the becoming of Suzanne on a higher level.
Mm.
And as I activate the becoming, the delay becomes a gift.
Yeah.
Because I have you ever gotten something that you were not ready for
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
then floundered or lost it because you did not go through the process of
Yeah.
growth required to hold it?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm always like, okay, I'm in this gap called delayed gratification. I'm mining the gap, and I'm looking for the skills, the knowledge, the experiences that allow me to become the person who can actually receive
Yeah.
the thing achieve the goal, hold it with power, hold it with confidence. And the whole time I'm in that delay, I tell people, Suzanne's scared.
Oh yeah.
I am I am scared and I am excited. And so the acceptance for me is that I am going to manage my fear and I'm going to live for the excitement of becoming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm going to give you language that you were required to then navigate as
Yeah.
you live in the gap. One is you're going to be required to be persistent.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but persistence is like, because that means I got to be patient and I got to keep moving. I got to persist. I got to challenge one. I'm going to get past it. Challenge two. I'm going to figure it out. Challenge three. I'm going to find out who can help me. Challenge, challenge, challenge. In that challenge, every time I get an answer, I become, I transform.
Yeah.
It's all how we hold it. Some people just naturally hold that gap as exciting, going after, becoming, gonna find an answer. Ooh, this is fun. And some of us shrink because it's all how we hold it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the learning part, and the growth is being able to hold that. And I know another thing that came up for me in the conversation, I started to look at, oh wow, this is a beautiful example of what faith is. So can
Mhm.
you continue, to stay the course, take the action, even though you don't know, you're in the delay, so you don't know all of the bits, the pieces, the intricacies. And I think that that's the thing that trips a lot of us up. I know it trips me off, trips me up. We want to know like all the details, like lay it out, I want to see it. And God is like, no, where would the fun be in that? There would be no purpose for me. So
Well, there not only will it not be fun, but there's no becoming.
mm-hmm,
So,
right.
one of the things when we talk about vision, and I say, if you cast a vision and it's not far enough outside of who you know yourself to be, it is actually a goal.
Mm, I
To,
like that.
right? It's not a vision. How I know I cast a vision is it's beyond me and it requires more than me, and it usually requires more people than me.
Yes.
So the piece about visioning is it activates transformation because I can't be the same person and get there. And therefore my goals become bigger than they usually are. And that's what scares us. The
That's such
goals stretch us.
that's such a great distinction, and I hope that our super achievers are really catching this, right? So to take a look at visions and goals, from that standpoint, that you when you have a vision, your vision is outside. I, and you could correct me if I'm saying it wrong. It's outside of you, it's bigger than you, and you can't get there on your own.
You can't get there on your own and you can't get there as who you are today.
Mm, okay.
That's what scares us,
Yeah.
right? I can't get there as who I know myself to be today. And the reason we often abandon, as you said,
Hmm.
is because we haven't, we can't see ourselves as the person yet. And that's the key word, yet. I can't see myself as that person who can do that thing. Therefore, let me just not start
Mm, okay.
because it might be hard to become that person. It might demand more of me. It might demand things of me I haven't been able to hold myself to before. And
Hmm.
so the safe thing is to say, let me just write my goals, cast my vision, talk about it, but do nothing about it because I
Mm,
haven't really decided that I'm going to commit to what it takes to get there. And listen to what we just said. You got to decide, you got to commit, you got to live in the delay, you got to have faith, you got to persist, you got to fail, you got to pick something up. You got to ask great questions, you got to find the right person.
yeah.
A lot in there.
Yeah. Wow.
And we're just thinking, yeah, I'm writing my goals.
Yeah, I absolutely love it because, like you said, is the commitment of growing into the person who you need to become in order to achieve those things, and that's the growth. So I absolutely love it. And so before we I see all the comments and everything from our super achievers, but before we address the comments, I want to just go ahead and ask. So how do we turn all of this around? How do we use language effectively in this process?
Mm. Well, as I answer that, I want to go back to something you said, because you said it requires faith. To live in the delay requires faith. And this is really a great example of how we use language to really hold ourselves accountable. So I have always seen myself as a woman of faith, believing I have faith. I'm gonna admit that until I became an entrepreneur and was out on my own, creating for myself, I realized I didn't have faith. I was a woman of rituals.
Mm,
This. I was a woman of rituals. Do the thing, say the thing, do the thing. And yes, I was doing them and I kind of believed them, but there was nothing that demanded that I believe in nothing, in something that's not there yet.
yeah.
And so when I became an entrepreneur, I got confronted with what faith really meant. And this is where language is so powerful, because I was using a word, but there was nothing in my existence that required that I actually be the word.
Yeah.
And so it was when I was in facing failure and facing, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get there. I don't know if I don't have an answer. It was when I said, I'm going to keep moving. In the face of not knowing was the first time I leaned in to faith, true.
Mm,
So, how language works is when we really begin to dissect words and not only understand it here, right? To not only understand it in terms of, I know the dictionary definition, I know what it means, that sort of thing, but understand it here and understand it in a way where we hold ourselves accountable to being the word. And so now I'm like, okay, Suzanne, this is a faith moment. You are going to be faith filled in this moment.
mm,
You will not have you don't have an answer, and an answer doesn't come from you in this moment. You have to step out and be faith filled. Now I'm holding myself accountable to the word.
right.
Word. Word, word, right? And so in that sense, so even when we talk about decide, when I'm tempted, in squirrel brain, Suzanne is tempted all the time. The reason I have this thing called the parking lot is the parking lot is the places where I park all the great ideas that people send to me, because I have to remind myself, no, I'm focused on this one thing. It's only the red door for the next 90 days. It's only the red door until this door gets unlocked. I run the corridor and I hit the target. Nothing else gets in the way. I've got to understand what decide means. It's when I've committed, or I say I'm committed, and then it gets hard
Yeah.
and I want to avoid, stay in bed, do something else, procrastinate. And I got to say, no, I'm committed. So I'm going to go do the thing scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Language, when we understand it, gives our brain hooks of accountability when we are using it with power. How that answered.
Oh no, that's really good. And just to let our super achievers know, yesterday Suzanne was just like, no, I'm going to bring you back to the commitment, because I had one of those squirrel moments in my mind too. I was just like, oh, she's just like, yes, that is great. That is
Yes,
awesome. But
yes,
that's not what we decided. What we decided, because that's how my brain works. That's not what we decided. We decided that we was going to do this. So until we finish this, then we won't take on that. Great idea, though. Just go ahead and put it in your parking lot. Don't forget it, but we're not doing it until we finish this.
and you know what's beautiful about that, as you unpack it, because now we are on the same page when it comes to
Mhm.
language.
Right.
When I say that to you, there's no energy about it.
Hmm.
There's no rejection, there's no anything, because we're talking the same thing.
Yeah.
We're working with the same behavioral definitions. So you're like, oh, yeah, we did decide. Oh, I had that moment. Yes, we need to commit. We're on the same page, right? And at the same time, we're like, that's a brilliant idea. Let's park it and pick it up as soon as we
Right.
accomplish and fulfill on this
Right.
commitment.
Yes.
That's power.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I really want to highlight to people, everyone listening, is that's movement as well. Because remember, the question we asked is, why do some people achieve their goals and live out their vision and others don't? Is because when we hold ourselves accountable to the words we said when we wrote that vision and set those goals, when we hold ourselves accountable in language, we move.
Yeah.
When we don't, we're busy.
Yeah.
So we produce rather than just be busy.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead. I see there's a lot of
No,
comments from our super achievers. So we have a Facebook user out there. I'm not sure who you are. So do me a favor. Just go ahead and let me know who you are as I read your comment. So super achiever says, I serve the investment minded who want to do the best they can with life and money with what they have, wealth, worth, wisdom through real estate investment. Am I going to say that that's Yetta out here this
that's yeah,
morning? So
that's
good
yeah.
morning, Yetta. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know why your name didn't show up for us this morning, but glad to have you as part of the conversation. And I see that Karen Hayes is out there hailing all the way from Oakwood, Georgia. I'm seeing things, Oakwood, Georgia. So thank you so much, Karen, for tuning in and joining me. And then, yes, setting your goals and working towards your vision can be scary and also exhilarating. Ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that we have Regina out there. And
Oh,
welcome.
Regina.
Good morning, Regina. How are you, my dear? And she says she's shouting over there over living in the delay. Yeah, Regina, that's what it's all about. It's about that delayed gratification and how do we operate in the gap? How do we grow and who do we become in the gap? So thank you so much for dropping that in there this morning.
And then we see Chrissy Girl who's out there. Good morning, Chrissy Girl. She is from my neck of the woods, Ontario, Canada, that Ottawa region. And Chrissy makes, I gotta give her a shout out. Chrissy, I received my journal. It is gorgeous. I received it with a beautiful note and great packaging. So thank you very much. So Chrissy makes beautiful journals. So if you're in need of a journal to write your goals and cast your vision, that's your girl. Hit her up. Because you can't just write your goals and your vision in just any old journal.
Right.
So there we go. So welcome, Chrissy.
And I see Yetta is teasing me about my roosters. Yeah, that's also part of the vision, Yetta, as I desire, a beautiful life outside of city hustle and bustle. This is one of the ways that I touch it. I come home and we got everything outside, roosters and chickens included. So I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I mean, this is what you call live, right? Can't edit that out. It's live.
Okay, so Suzanne, I have a question for you. So this has been such a beautiful conversation this morning. And like I said, being part of the mastermind and exploring it, just a little less than a week ago, and then having a real world experience, recently after that is totally eye opener for me. So when did you realize that it's all about language and
Mhm.
how our language shapes our success?
You know, I think my first introduction to it was when I took landmark education, and I know there's probably some grads on. And landmark is all about the power of communication, and they say our world occurs through language. And when I graduated from there, and I really began to one write and speak, what I realized was the clearer I was with my language, the more power I had on
Mhm.
stage. So I became just really interested in one, being concise and having clarity of language.
Mhm.
And not only did it give me power in my communication, but it allowed things to land clearly for whoever was listening. That was the first thing. I think the second thing was when I started to write my book, Leading with Character, and I started to pull apart words because one of my questions was, why was it that my habits weren't as good as I wanted them to be? Why
Mm.
was it that I would say I was going to do something, but didn't end up doing it? And as I began to write that book and kind of explore for myself, what I realized was I had a dictionary definition of the word.
Wow.
And the dictionary definition of the word sometimes is not useful. I needed a behavioral definition of the word.
Mm. I love that.
And so I started asking myself, okay, so here's this word. My favorite word to do this with is integrity. People
Mm.
talk about integrity all the time. I'm a person of integrity. You're out of integrity. We hear it all the time. What does integrity truly mean?
What does it look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the behaviors and actions that has you be someone of integrity? So I, just because of how my brain works, started really just unpacking words. So I came up with integrity is honoring, is being your word. That's what we usually hear. However, for me, what gave me clarity was when Suzanne Hart wakes up in the morning and her feet hit the ground and she says, "Thank you for a new day. I am out of integrity." And and this is how my mind like really began to grasp this. I recreate integrity that day every time I do what I say I'm going to do. So integrity isn't I have it or I don't. It is, what do I do every day to recreate it by being my word, honoring my word, doing the duty, and so that my behaviors and my speaking line up. It was when I started looking at words in the actions to it,
Yeah.
the being of it, that I actually began to say, whoa, this is powerful, because most of the time we say things and we don't know what's required.
Yeah.
That was the difference for me.
Yeah. And what's so powerful about that, and I know this is one of the words that, like you said, one of your favorite words, so we have the opportunity to explore it all the time. Even taking a look for me at integrity, I always, well, I should say, I hold it in the past as, someone has integrity. Either they have integrity or they don't have integrity, but never in the vein of, what do you do, on a regular, consistent, daily basis to build you into that person of
Mhm.
integrity. So it's not that you have integrity or you don't have integrity. I love the fact that you said it's behavior. So how do you continue to build integrity? And as you take these actions and you exhibit this behavior, then people now see you, and you see yourself as a person of integrity. So one
Mhm.
of my words is communication, right? And I've always thought that communication, or being, or having great communication is just being able to, to talk and say things, to people in a respectful manner that doesn't hurt their feelings. Like, I've been taught that, like, if it doesn't help, don't say it. If it hurts,
Mhm.
don't say it. But what does it really take to have great communication? So great communication requires, for us to exhibit that behavior of talking about things even when they're hard, they're not so pleasant, you don't want to have the conversation, you try to avoid the conversation. All of that other great stuff is included, under great communication. So I love that you said, it's like every day as I take a look, because that's my word, right? That I'm growing into. As I take a look at communication, what is it that's required for me to get better at
Mhm.
communication and grow into that? So what are the behaviors around that? So that's good. Taking a look at the things, the words, and asking yourself, what are the behaviors that are in
Mhm.
alignment with the words?
Yeah, and then your world. I know for me, my world changed.
Hmm.
Remember, we were talking about accountability. There was a higher level of accountability, and I thought more, Sharia, about what I said yes to.
Mm,
Thought more about what I was actually saying, the words that came out of my mouth. I held myself much more accountable
mhm.
to what my language, my communication, my um, my follow through, if you will. And so I am more likely to say, let me consider that or think about it if
Yeah.
I'm not clear on a yes.
Mhm.
Like if I'm not like, oh, crystal clear, oh yes, that's a yes. It's like let me give that some consideration. Because how often do you say yes
Right. And
because you
you don't know what the yes entails, but you said yes.
or you don't know what it means. Or
Yeah.
you said yes because you didn't want to make someone uncomfortable, or you said yes because you didn't want to say no, or you said yes. And every time you do that, you erode who you are in the world for somebody else.
Yeah.
You erode how you show up. They see you different. Now you're someone who doesn't honor their word. Oh, you didn't show up. You said yes, but you didn't show up. And in your mind, well, I had no intention of really showing up. If I'm really honest, I just said yes to shut down the conversation and stop you from talking. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
That's what we start being present to. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that was me. I totally candid. That was me. It was easy. That's not who I want to be, though. And so the accountability of the language we use brings us to a new level.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that Regina is loving this. Regina is saying behavioral definition. That's so good, and to be able to recreate integrity every day and be in alignment of our words. Know the requirement. Be more accountable to your words. And Chrissy Girl is saying higher level of accountability regarding my language and follow through. And yes, that's what it's all about. So
Mhm.
are you conscious about it?
Yes. I think the last thing, and I know you and I have had this conversation, the one thing that you'll have access to as you do this is a growing sense of self and
Hmm.
a higher level of confidence. Because when your words become law for you, when you can count on your word, it does something for how you see yourself and what you believe about yourself. And so, and I remind everybody who works with me all the time, remember, we take ourselves everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we know who we are. The more you get certain about who you are, and remember, the beginning of the question is why is it that some people set goals, cast visions, and achieve them? They've got the Midas touch, is because they're certain about who they are in the world,
Mhm.
about how they show up. They believe they can count on themselves. When we are not in alignment with what we say and what we do, our mind knows it.
Yeah.
We take ourselves everywhere. So the more you do this work, the more power you have personally. And that's the only power that exists for me.
Yeah. I love it. Love it.
Oh my gosh, that was juicy conversation.
So
Oh my goodness.
I know one of the things as we go through, this conversation and we're talking about it, one of the things that it's um, bringing to the forefront to me is to, like you said, be more aware of the language, be more aware of the words that I choose. So am I stopping to consciously give thought to the
Mhm.
words that I'm choosing and I'm using? And if I'm going to use a word, not only know the meaning of the word, but what's the behavior? What are the behaviors that need to exhibit? To bring that word to life. How am I living into it? But also another part of it, and we're talking about casting a vision and setting goals and becoming the person to get there. One of the things, and we're talking about language, that also stood out for me that I know that I'm paying attention more to is the minimizers. So how many times have we casted big vision and set our goals, and then when we speak we have minimizers that really detract us from where we want to go? So it's just a little, or it's
Mm,
just or it's just only. So when
mm.
you take a look at your vision isn't a little vision, it's a big juicy vision. So
Worthy,
why?
worthy of
Yeah,
your life, girl.
vision. So why is your language and reflecting a little? I'm just gonna do a little some, a little something, something. My ebonics is coming out, a little something, something, or just, or only. So it's paying attention, to those things as well. Are we in our mind setting ourselves up for success, or mentally we've already been defeated before we start, and it's all in the power of our language.
I love it. And this is such a great place to end because it for me, I always tell people cast a vision worthy
Mhm.
of your life. That's not little.
Yeah.
Worthy of your life. And one of my favorite speakers is Jerry Clark, and he's like, "You meet Jerry. Jerry, what's up? Up to big things.
Right.
Up to big things." Right? And it was just his mindset of he's demanding that he up to big things.
Yeah.
He's pursuing big things, up to big things. It's larger than life. And you just meet her and you're just like, oh, I want to jam with Jerry. He up to big things. It's how we also train ourselves
Yeah.
and and push ourselves and I love what you're saying. And don't minimize one what you're doing. And when you achieve, don't minimize the achievement
Yeah.
either, because that's the other thing. Oh, it wasn't that hard. No, it was hard. I was scared when I started. I had to grow a lot to get here. Honor yourself with the truth of the thing. It may feel easy now that you're looking back.
Mhm.
However, like sit and think when you first started. Oh my goodness, I was scared. It's huge.
Yeah.
That's transformation, and honor it and revel in it and
I
seek it out.
love that.
Seek
Ooh,
it out. Oh,
yeah.
it's gonna be a beautiful 2023. We're ready.
I
Ready.
know.
We ready.
Oh wow. I can't believe we sit down, we have these conversations, and the time just goes by so quickly. And I see that Chrissy Girl is saying big juicy vision, big juicy language, big juicy celebrations. I love it. I could tell that Chrissy Girl, her word is big and juicy for 2023. I love
That's a journal. That's a journal coverage, Chrissy. That's a journal cover. I might have to order another one. There you go.
I know Regina is saying how to set yourself up. You either set yourself up for success or you set yourself up for failure. And absolutely, Karen is saying, not only am I worthy, but God promised the victory. I've came a long way, baby. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love
Mm.
it. All right. So, Suzanne, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put those words into our community
Absolutely. We
for,
definitely
for
will.
super achievers.
And I said, Super Achievers, look for a post. There's going to be a post coming with all this juicy stuff. So you're
All right. So, any last words, Suzanne, before we go ahead and we wrap up our beautiful conversation today?
I'm going to invite you to drop the quote for the week.
Okay. All right. So, quote for the week or thought for the week, super achievers, is language shapes the way we think and determines what we can think about, by Benjamin Lee Wharf. So, once again, our language shapes the way that we think and it determines what we can think about.
Hmm.
So, ponder on that.
All right, super achievers. Well, you've been sitting down with Suzanne Hart, beautiful Tria Hodge. This was the Influencers Journey show. As continue the conversation, continue the comments, and if you're listening to the replay, hashtag replay, and let us know what you're taking away. Continue to light up the comments all week long. And until we meet again, please know you're brilliant. Know you are oh so special, and the world is waiting for your unique gifts. Blessings.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.